And when you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth.
We shouldn't have to learn this.
Why not?
Because my uncle's not a monkey.
From the lunar surface or on the daylight side.
The darkest black you can imagine.
Velvet.
Bottom was black.
Bright white sun. When
The darkest black you can imagine. When you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars. Like.
Now, why don't we know about this? This should have made the cover of every major magazine and newspaper. This should have been on CNN headline news or Sky News.
Read the fucking manual.
I'm William Cooper. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to talk about documents that I saw while I was with the Office of Naval Intelligence, specifically on the intelligence briefing team of the United States Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, who at that time was Admiral Bernard Clarey. These documents outlined the coming formation of a one-world socialist government, which as one body make up the mystery schools, or the ancient mystery religion of Babylon. This plan called for the creation of an external, artificial, and I stress that word artificial, threat to this earth. The entire ufology movement, ladies and gentlemen, is a creation meant to bring that about. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is a plan to bring about a new world order, and a lot of the things that you see happening in the world today are a direct result of action taken to complete that plan. Now, many of you aren't going to believe a word that I'm saying, and that's okay. You will find out eventually, I can assure you. I talked yesterday about the creation of an artificial alien threat to this earth to facilitate the destruction of sovereign nations, the coming together as one humanity under a one world government, with all people willing to make whatever sacrifices are called upon them to make, such as giving up all your liberties and freedoms and anything else they may ask you to do, in order to oppose this external threat. In order to make interstellar travel believable, which nobody was buying, nobody understanding the vast distances in space could even remotely conceive that somebody from some other star could make the journey from their planet to here. Not only that, but nobody could understand how they could find this planet or even want to come here, given the billions and billions of choices that there are in the universe. So in order to make this believable, which absolutely had to occur for this scam to be swallowed by the people of the world, NASA, the National Aeronautic and Space Administration, was created. The Apollo space program, ladies and gentlemen, foisted the idea that man could travel to and walk upon the moon. Every single Apollo mission was carefully rehearsed and then filmed in large sound stages at the Atomic Energy Commission's top-secret test site in the Nevada desert, and in a secured and guarded soundstage at the Walt Disney Studios, within which was a huge-scale mock-up of the moon. All the names, missions, landing sites, and events in the Apollo space program echoed the occult metaphors, rituals, and symbology of the Illuminati's secret religion. One of the most transparent, not the most, but one of the most transparent, was the faked explosion on Apollo 13, which was the metaphor for the initiation ceremony involving the death, which was the explosion, placement in the coffin, which was the period of uncertainty of their survival, communion with the spiritual world in the imparting of esoteric knowledge to the candidate, which was the orbit and observation of the moon without physical contact, rebirth of the initiate, which was the solution of the problem and repairs, and the raising up by the grip of the lion's paw, which was the re-entry and recovery of Apollo 13. 13, ladies and gentlemen, is no coincidence. It is the number of death and rebirth, death and reincarnation, sacrifice, the phoenix, the Christ, but not the Christ that you know if you are a Christian, and the transition from the old to the new.
15, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Go for main engine start. Main engine start. 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, returning to the space station, paving the way for future missions beyond.
Another revelation to those who understand the symbolic language of the Illuminati is the hidden meaning of the names of the space shuttles. Listen to this very carefully. I assume that you all know the names of the space shuttles. If you don't, they are all included in this sentence. Quote, a Colombian enterprise to endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis, and all challengers shall be destroyed, end quote. Exploration of the moon, ladies and gentlemen, stopped because it was impossible to continue the hoax without being ultimately discovered. They were pressing their luck as it was. And of course, they ran out of pre-filmed episodes. Another revelation to those who understand the symbolic language of the Illuminati is the hidden meaning of the names of the space shuttles. Listen to this very carefully. I assume that you all know the names of the space shuttles. If you don't, they are all included in this sentence. Quote, a Colombian enterprise to endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis, and all challengers shall be destroyed, end quote. Exploration of the moon, ladies and gentlemen, stopped because it was impossible to continue the hoax without being ultimately discovered. They were pressing their luck as it was. And of course, they ran out of pre-filmed episodes. No man, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me very carefully, no man has ever ascended higher than 300 miles, if indeed any have ever ascended that high above the Earth's surface. No man has ever orbited, landed on, or walked upon the moon in any publicly known space program. If man has exceeded the 300-mile limit, and if man has ever truly been to the moon, it has been done in secret and with a far different technology. It was not done in the Apollo space program.
So there is good data out there, enough data to raise concern.
Oh my God! It's so big! Wow! It's huge! Oh God, that's big. Oh, yeah, that is just fabulous. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
Now, why don't we know about this? This should have made the cover of every major magazine and newspaper. This should have been on CNN headline news. or Sky News.
Read the fucking manual.
See, here's the thing about NASA, guys. They admit they make composite images of Earth. And even though they've been doing so much work in the solar system for over 40 years, and there should be hundreds of pictures just from that, like if you pretend all these satellites don't exist, they're still doing work in the solar system, right? There should be hundreds of pictures of Earth from space just based on all of that fucking work. And they don't exist, and they fucking admit their pictures are fake.
Last week.
The official story by NASA has been that there are thousands and thousands of satellites orbiting in space from 130 miles to over 300 miles above us, bolting around at speeds we cannot even comprehend of some 17,000 miles per hour, where heat temperatures are in the thousands of degrees, where space is in a near vacuum with little nothing to push off against to propel the spacecraft. Really? Basic physics says movement equals force applied against resistance. And what about all the space junk and debris? According to Wiki, there are more than 500,000 pieces of space debris orbiting Earth, traveling at speeds of up to 175,000 miles per hour. Even a very small piece of space debris traveling at these velocities would significantly damage a spacecraft or a satellite, not to mention kill a spacewalker. Again from Wiki, quote, "At the low altitudes at which the ISS orbits, there are a variety of space debris consisting of many different objects, including entire spent rocket stages, defunct satellites, explosion fragments, including materials from anti-satellite weapon tests, paint flakes, slag from solid rocket motors, and coolant released by USA nuclear-powered satellites. These objects, in addition to natural micrometeoroids, are a significant threat." End quote. Additionally, we've been sold by NASA that there are also millions of micrometeoroids traveling at speeds of as fast as 6,000 miles per hour. One such debris can cause significant damage to spacemen and their craft, yet NASA has been willing to put astronauts' lives at such risk. Come on, folks, do you really believe such utter nonsense and lie? A 7-gram object shot at 16,000 miles per hour, which is close to the orbital velocity of the ISS, made this 5 7/8 crater in a solid block of aluminum, yet NASA says no problema. So what is NASA's solution to space debris and micrometeoroids? Well, in the 1940s, Fred Whipple proposed a meteoroid shield for the spacecraft called the Whipple Shield in recognition of his contribution. Again from Wiki, quote, "The Whipple shield consists of a thin aluminum, quote, sacrificial wall mounted at a distance from a rear wall. The function of the first sheet or, quote, bumper is to break up the projectile into a cloud of material containing both projectile and bumper debris. This cloud expands while moving across the standoff, resulting in the impactor momentum being distributed over a wide area of the rear wall. The back sheet must be thick enough to withstand the blast loading from the debris cloud and any solid fragments that remained," end quote. According to NASA, there have been 187 spacewalks from the ISS ship alone. There's no evidence of Whipple shields being installed on any spacewalk astronauts. So let's go back in time to Hollywood Productions, National Official Photos. Let's go to the moon and official NASA image archives from 40 years back, which NASA has provided thousands and thousands of alleged photographs from the moon landings. Here is the LEM, or Lunar Excursion Module, that allegedly landed on the moon 6 times carrying 2 astronauts. The base was used as a launch pad to redock up with the orbiting command module traveling at some 3,000 miles per hour. First look at this construction. My 10-year-old son could do a better design in his art class. How did this even fly? Yet NASA says the LEM landed on the moon. Come on, folks. Art paper, gold foil, and tape, it looks like to me. Here we see a perfectly lit photograph image of Buzz Aldrin leaving the LEM. The lighting is perfect, though there is no atmosphere and the intense sun is on the other side of the craft. But NASA needed its picture, so Photoshop they did. Here Buzz Aldrin is touching down into the gray lunar surface where temperatures range from 240 degrees minus in the shade, we are told, and some plus 225 degrees in the sunlight. Forget about all the gadgets and moon buggy working perfectly in such heat. Think about how hot the LEM became after the astronauts were on the moon's surface for hours at a time. Did it have air conditioning? Did it bring its own water? It makes no sense at even the most basic of logic or reason. But wait, what is this? There was a midget astronaut on the moon? Didn't you know? Again, official NASA photo. Shopped. There are thousands and thousands of these pictures from the Apollo missions, and when even curiously examined, they do not hold up to scrutiny. Now back to the LEM. How did this flying trash can even fly? Forget about being in a vacuum in space. What aerospace engineer designed this thing? And we are told to believe this thing landed on the moon, then launched back into space every time without incident? And now let's look at the retired space shuttle that we are sold returns from over 100 miles in space and glides. That's right, glides back down to Earth without any jet-powered assistance. The story goes that from a speed of 17,500 miles per hour and 130 miles in space, it descends and executes a series of bank maneuvers that slow the craft down to where it lands by gliding at some 240 miles per hour. Here is a glider. Look at its wingspan. The space shuttle weighs in upon return to Earth at over 150,000 pounds empty, with wings half the size of a 747, which is jet-powered. Look at its wings. Heck, Buzz Lightyear had a bigger wingspan than this flying AMC Pacer, yet NASA says it glides. So it glides, and there has never been any problems on landings. Wow. Let's move on. If gravity is said to dissipate at some 130 miles from Earth so that man can walk in space, then how the heck does the moon with 1/6 the gravitational pull and 1/4 the size of the Earth make our oceans go up and down twice a day, as well as reshape the Earth obliquely from some 238,000 miles away? The following is from Google Photoshop Earth. Why does Google nor any of NASA's satellites ever show us the view from space from the poles, showing the Earth allegedly rotating at 1,000 miles per hour like basic astronomy tells us it does? I found this on YouTube from a gentleman named Dave Snyder, who has been following Google Earth for 3 years of the pictures of the poles. He states that it's been 10 days since they updated this shot of the North Pole, and it never changes. Why? He says that on Google Earth, the North Pole is like this all the time. You can see a lot of weather around the outside of the North Pole, yet the shot of the pole is blocked out. Why? Here we see the Antarctic. It always looks like this, he says. Look at it. Does this look real to you? Why is there no weather? Why is the photo so undefined? Again, images, not pictures, my friends.
This is what you guys do. But I've been doing the research. You guys have been telling me that there is a Hubble Space Telescope taking pictures of stars. You've been telling me that astronauts are in the International Space Station. This is what you guys have been saying. Don't tell me you haven't been telling me this. Let's go into this thing here now. Let's go into the layers of the atmosphere. We have the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and the exosphere. Now the satellites are supposed to be in the thermosphere. Thermo is dealing with heat. Now, how hot are we talking? Okay, well, according to Wiki Answers, the temperature goes from 600 degrees Celsius to 2,000 degrees Celsius. I don't know if you know how hot that is, but that's as hot as a blast furnace. We're supposed to believe that they have these machines in the thermosphere, where the temperature goes up to 2,000 degrees Celsius. This is, think of it, the satellites will become balls of flame. It will become a comet. They're moving at 17,000 miles an hour. And you have supposedly 26,000 satellites in space. This is what they said. But yet and still, they're telling us that we have things looking like this. Look at this. Does this look hot to you? This is gold, and come on, guys. This is ridiculous. Anywho, this is how satellites would actually look at the temperature that they're telling us the thermosphere is. They're telling us that thermosphere is from 600 degrees Celsius to 2,000 degrees Celsius. This is how it would look. This is how the Hubble telescope would look at 1,200 degrees Celsius. This is how it would look. This is how it would look from 500 to 1,000 degrees Celsius. Guys, this doesn't make any sense. This is a fantasy. Here you are telling me that you got satellites taking pictures. Just please send me footage of a satellite. Now here we have a blast furnace. As you can see, a blast furnace, the temperature is from 2000 to 2300 degrees Celsius. With a blast furnace, you create iron from putting ore into it, and then you blast it with air. This is how this is how the satellites would look if they were really in space, but they're not, because they're fake. They don't exist. The only source that you think is credible, and this is what they're going to tell you. Now, when it comes to the thermosphere, this is what they say. The highly diluted gas in this layer can reach 2500 degrees Celsius during the day. Even though the temperature is so high, one would not feel warm in the thermosphere because it is so near vacuum that there is not enough contact with the few atoms of gas to transfer heat. A normal thermometer would read significantly below 0 degrees Celsius because the energy lost by thermal radiation would exceed the energy acquired from the atmospheric gas by direct contact. Now, if that's not a crock of bullshit, I don't know what is. I got a bridge to sell you. You know, does this even make any sense? So you mean to tell me that this layer of the atmosphere is as hot as a blast furnace, but it's actually not hot. It's actually below 0 degrees Celsius. This is what they're going to tell you. And now you're going to have to explain this to me. So before you come to me and tell me I'm crazy, before you come to me and tell me that I'm a troll and I'm looking for views, you're going to have to explain how the hell a layer of the atmosphere could be 2500 degrees Celsius, but actually 0 degrees Celsius. Because if that's the case, then we shouldn't feel the heat from the sun. Because according to them, the sun is far out in the space. It's far out in the vacuum. So you have to explain to me, how do we feel the heat from the sun? Someone has to explain this. I'll wait. I'll wait for someone to explain this, because I know you guys are geniuses, you guys are intellectuals that's watching this video, you guys are smarter than I am, right? So you're going to have to explain to me how we feeling the heat from the sun, but here we have a layer of the atmosphere that's supposedly hot, but because it's in the vacuum, it's not hot. I'll wait for the explanation, because I know some of you guys are Einsteins, I know you guys are prodigies, you guys are nerds, right? You guys are so smart. So I'll wait for this explanation. Let's move forward. Now we're going to look at these melting points, because this is really what 1000 degrees Celsius. But all the elements that it's made of can melt at 1000 degrees Celsius. And now here's a picture of the Hubble Space Telescope. This is in the friggin' thermosphere. And this is how it looks. You guys have no problem with this. And of course you have rocket propulsion. Now, I didn't even write any notes for this one because this one is so ridiculous. So you mean to tell me they're using rockets in space? But they said that in space is a vacuum. How are you pushing against nothing? It doesn't make any sense. Alright, let me give you an example. Let's say you have a boat. Now with the boat, you have the oars or the propeller. The propeller of the oars are pushing against water. Let's say you take the boat outside of the water and you're still, you know, pushing the propeller or spinning the propeller, and you're still, you know, rowing the boat. You're not going to go anywhere. That's the same principle for rockets. In the Earth's atmosphere, you have an atmosphere to push against. So when you blast a rocket, you'll go forward. But when you're in space, according to them, they say it's a vacuum. So how the hell are we seeing satellites with this? How are we seeing satellites with this bullshit? Someone has to explain what type of propulsion system they're using, but they're telling us it's satellites. Because this is the picture. This is a NASA photo. This doesn't make any sense. This proves even further that these satellites are fake. These satellites don't exist. And now they have, what's this? Solar panels? So you mean to tell me that they are more environmentally conscious in space than they are on Earth? Are you serious? So they don't have solar panel cars, but they have solar panel satellites. It doesn't make any sense for them to all of a sudden be so conscious. But that's besides the point. But my main point is, this rocket propulsion in space is ludicrous.
Now, how many satellites are in orbit? You can't get a number, but that number will range from anywhere between 1,500 to 20,000 satellites. You'll always get a different number as to how many satellites exist in orbit. What do satellites look like? The old satellites from the 70s were very large. The Navy even recently had an operation where they pretended to shoot a satellite out of orbit to minimize its danger in re-entry, and they described this satellite as being the size of a bus. Satellites used to be quite large. Nowadays, they want you to believe that satellites can fit in the palm of your hand. Now they have CubeSat satellites, and they can they can be deployed from the International Space Station by hand. An astronaut can toss one of these CubeSat satellites at the Earth. Doesn't even matter how he throws it at the Earth. You could throw it at the Earth or towards an orbital plane. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you toss it and it's tumbling uncontrollably, but this is what they'll have you believe.
I'm telling you now, there are no satellites up in space. All the information is gathered from the ground, so there's no need to have satellites floating around in space taking images.